So you know those like mentorship programs like Big Brothers and Big Sisters where someone takes an underprivileged kid under the wing to show him the ropes?
Oh yeah, that sounds good.
I mean, I've always wondered what they would be like in tons and tons of guns.
Probably
Mississippi. I feel like Mississippi would happen.
Virginia?
No.
MISSI huh? The NRA.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dead Man Walking.
Wrong, and you should just hit yourself in the face until you change your mind.
The gold standard for dumb storytelling.
Netflix doesn't make real movies, but controversy. Marco 2020.
Benny Doodle Cummerbund. Good job, Luke. You did it.
What? His creepy lip. What?
I'm the new Kool-Aid Man.
All right, so the other weekend, Dan and I went to go see, actually on it wasn't quite opening night, but we went to go see Deadpool 2 because we loved the first one and we thought, hey, the second one, it can't be any worse. Just kidding, it was fantastic.
Yeah, I was wondering where you're going with that. In case you were dubious, Deadpool 2 pretty much continues to be just as much Deadpool as 2016 Deadpool was.
I mean, right out of the gate,
Deadpool.
If you only feel like listening to the first minute of this, if you liked the first one, you'll like the second one. That's pretty much all you need to know.
The theme was Deadpool. The marketing has been Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds is pretty much Deadpool.
Ryan Reynolds was genetically engineered to perform this role.
It's true. I mean, yeah, there's not a whole lot more we can say about, our recommendation for it. I guess, if you did like the first one, you probably will like the second one. And rest assured, the outspoken actor, he worked pretty hard to make sure his outspoken character wasn't about to get ruined now.
I'm actually drinking a Deadpool-themed beverage right now. The marketing is incredible.
Oh, yeah. How you like that?
It's blood orange.
Thanks to the absurd success of the first film, Deadpool 2 is pretty much exactly what we were promised. It's bigger, longer, raunchier, more reference-packed, and more gore-ific that manages to keep the spirit of its first film
Actually,
intact.
I don't think it was raunchier. I think there was less sexual content in this one.
Well, it was longer, so I think there was, more of it. Maybe just not per capita?
Nah, there was overall, we'll get to it in spoilers, but it was more violence, but there wasn't, there was still plenty of innuendo, but I don't think there was as much sex in this one. So if you're in it because you want to see Deadpool bone somebody, it's not the film for you. What can I say?
I think it's worth noting that it should probably come to as no surprise at this point that sequels are... There's a chance of them being good. It used to kind of be that, the second movie, it's not as good. But I feel like, especially with comic book movies, there's a greater chance of them being even better than the first one.
I don't know about better, but they don't have the same road to hoe the other sequel movies do because they don't... What they basically... the first movie has to get the character established, and then the sequel can go on and build on that. They don't have to worry about the origin story. I think that's one of the reasons that Spider-Man Homecoming was so good, is it just skipped the origin right away and got right into the meat of what Spider-Man was. And that's why I think something that makes this movie great is you already know who Deadpool is, so you don't have to worry about the setup. You can just focus on the insanity.
It's true, but even the first Deadpool just jumped right into the insanity. It kind of told its story out of order.
And it gets away with it because it's pretty meta.
Right, and the thing is, comic book characters, because by their nature, they just thrust these characters into so many different stories. You have a lot of different stories to pull from. So really, they have every right to be good, the sequels do, because they have so many more things to draw from. Well, Deadpool 2, this isn't much of a spoiler, but when Deadpool 1 was finished, they already greenlit 2 sequels for the movie as well as an X-Force movie.
Oh, wait, we're actually getting a trilogy.
Maybe.
I figured they would be stupid not to make a third movie, but I wasn't sure if we're going to get Deadpool 3 or if we're going to get a straight-up X-Force movie.
So the rumor was... Or the rumor has been recently, and essentially by rumor, I mean Ryan Reynolds pretty much said that the focus now is an X-Force movie. Deadpool 3 is a maybe, maybe not at this point. And I'm fine with that, so far because this movie does establish him pretty well as an ensemble character. He kind of worked with other superheroes pretty well in the first movie as well.
I'm not even worried. I mean, like, at this point, I trust Ryan Reynolds absolutely with this. He has such a beat on the Deadpool character, and us being gigantic nerds are already very familiar with Deadpool before they even made the first movie. I was shocked when they went through with it. I was like, what? There's no way.
I mean, so we had, what was it, Colossus, and then
Well, you don't want to spoil too much.
No, I was talking about, like, the first movie. I'm just saying, like...
Oh, first movie, yeah.
Setting up ensemble.
Well, Colossus was the only real X-Men that you got, and they had this,
Right.
the kid, Negasonic teenage warhead.
Right, it pretty much just shows up to be, like, the edgy teen. And that's part of what makes Deadpool so much fun to read, and now so much fun to watch, is seeing him interact with other sort of different ludicrous characters.
And weird as it sounds, I think it almost works better under the banner of 20th Century Fox, because the X-Men movies always took themselves more seriously than the Marvel movies did. And it's so much easier to make fun of them.
Oh, and it knows it too. This movie's very aware of that. Like, it's also very keenly aware of how stupid the timelines for X-Men have gotten and how confusing they are.
Yep.
He's been poking fun at it the whole time.
Honestly, the only thing I need now to die happy is just for Disney to give Deadpool one cameo in a regular Marvel movie, like the next Avengers movie. Like, even if it's like a post-credit scene where he just like wanders in, that's all I want. That's all I want. They cut it off right before he could say like the F-bomb, like they did with Samuel L. Jackson. I'm still salty about that.
I'll say, and I don't think this is too much of a spoiler because kind of X-Force things were in the trailer. Like I said, setting up for an ensemble is very fun in this movie. So, what's her name? Zazie Beetz is her name, as Domino. She was pretty fun.
Surprisingly so. Domino is like...
Her whole character was just, things fall into place for me.
Her superpower is she's lucky.
Yes.
And the sheer incredulousness of that statement is the joke. And Deadpool refuses to believe it either. Like, that's her mutant power. Like, she's always kind of a dumb character. It's like, oh, how do you define that? But they do it really well. The actress who plays her, I can't pronounce her name, but she's great.
I'm gonna say it's Zazie Beetz.
Zazie Beetz. Zazie.
I don't see any other way to pronounce
Zazzy
this,
Snazzy.
man. Maybe Zazzy. Dang it, now you got that in my head.
Either way, she does a good job. Honestly, like, when it comes to acting, I only have one real complaint with the movie, and we'll get into that with the good, the bad, and the ugly.
The other big, obvious character, Josh Brolin as Cable, and he was... Dude, it's Josh freaking Brolin. I don't have to explain anything to you.
Is there anything that man cannot do? Like, at this point, like, you could have Josh Brolin, like, I don't know, play the lead role in the next Jessica Alba biopic, and I would give it a fair chance. I'd be like, you know what? Let's see what the man can do.
I would go see that Mamma Mia sequel if he was in it. I absolutely would. Singing and dancing, just...
You heard it, Hollywood. You want us to go see a musical theater film made for middle-aged women? Put Josh Brolin in it. We'll do it.
At this point, if he manages to kick off his own little extended universe, which he's sort of doing, I can't imagine how just irritated everyone else is.
The Josh Brolin verse, or are you talking about Deadpool?
No, Deadpool. Sorry. Well, the Josh Brolin verse. Dear God.
I'm picturing like the movie being John Malkovich, but being Josh Brolin. just granite jawlines everywhere.
But really, like, Deadpool, he's kicking off his whole, like, X-Force thing. If he manages to start his own extended universe, the only ones that have been successful so far are Marvel ones, either by Disney or by Fox.
Well,
Star Wars is sort of one, but they're kind of
if we're talking about like recent cinematic history, then yes, Marvel has that on lock. DC has struggled. Star Wars just like face planted, and all the other universes. I mean, I guess Harry Potter's still alive and kicking. They're making another Magical Beasts or whatever.
Didn't think about that. You're right. Okay.
So there is that. Depending on how, if they can keep that Beastie franchise going, they've got something.
That's true, because those weren't based off of the books in particular.
She did write them, but they were like afterthoughts.
She wrote a book called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, but it was more just a way to kind of extend the lore that was already there. She didn't write the story that was in the movie.
But then I remember we don't actually care about Harry Potter.
It's true. We care about Deadpool. And
So-
in short, Deadpool 2 was good. I'm looking forward to the sequels, however many there are. And chances are the only thing that's going to turn people away from this one is that,
The content.
yeah,
the
it
content.
is more excessive in its R rating.
I will say, like, just for the strict theater viewing experience, it was nice because the R rating did keep the parents of little kiddies out. There were no 4-year-olds running around in the theater like there were with Infinity War.
Oh, yeah, they finally learned after both Deadpool and Logan, don't take your kid to see Deadpool 2.
Yeah, I remember little kids being in Logan. It's like, what? Just because there's a kid in the movie doesn't mean the movie's made for kids. Get out. You're a bad parent. F, you fail.
I was so mad. There was a kid crying, and then the parent was like cussing at the kid to shut them up. I'm like, you are taking them to see the most depressing superhero
But
film.
not in Deadpool, which ironically does present itself as a family film. If you see it, you'll know what we mean. Do you have a short synopsis for us before we get into the good, bad, and ugly?
Short synopsis. Do you really need one? I mean, there's this one that Fox posted to IMDb.
That tells you nothing. Don't do it. Don't do it. All right, synopsis.
It's part of the Deadpool marketing. I'll say that much.
So synopsis, Deadpool has a sword. Deadpool hits people with the sword until things turn out okay in the end. The end.
It's similar in the fashion with other Deadpool stories. It's, lined with a bunch of comedy, but it's sort of balancing a darker story about like messed up characters that try to kind of pull themselves out.
I mean, I feel like this ranges into slightly spoiler territory, but the upshot is Deadpool is entering a personal crisis, which is hilarious, and he meets Cable, who has come back in time to basically kill someone. Deadpool has to figure out why and hopefully keep him from killing this person. That's the upshot of the film, and in the process, he meets a whole bunch of interesting characters, and they have to try and save a kid.
Let's just ease into spoilers then.
That's about as spoiler-free as you're going to get. Like,
if you
the
saw a
trailers played it very close to the chest.
Yeah. All right. The good.
What was great about Deadpool 2, Dan?
There's a lot of reasons why it was great. I was...
Number one, Josh Brolin.
Number one, Josh Brolin.
What can that man not do? You know what?
There was a lot of.
If they put him in Star Wars, I'll be happy watching Star Wars again.
Yeah, that's true. He could fix Star Wars. He's the one answer to fixing that extended universe. He could fix every extended universe. He could jump into those Universal movies. Whatever comes after The Mummy, put Josh Brolin in it.
I wasn't aware that Universal kind of
tried.
they killed that one in the cradle.
They did.
Anyway, what's good about Deadpool 2?
So many references, so many hilarious off the rails moments.
BT Dubs, this is spoilers.
The movie spitfires jokes like a Rick and Morty episode, like jokes and
But for
and
2
references
hours,
for things.
which is impressive.
Oh, it's very impressive. I actually saw this movie a second time since the weekend we both saw it, and there were a few more quips that he threw out that I missed on, and it wasn't the kind of Easter egg hunt that was just berating and in your face like Ready Player One was. It was actually it just fits the character so well that as he's just running his mouth constantly.
I mean, they do have some good little snippets he throws in. Like he digs at Rob Liefeld, the comic book artist in the '90s who helped create Cable, who was just a horrible artist. And he accuses someone of having poorly drawn feet, which was a common complaint for that guy.
Yeah, he rails at DC a couple times. He rails at other Marvel movies. It's just all over the place, and it's tons of fun. There's a joke he makes about a song. It was he says, "Do you want to build a snowman?" in Frozen is completely ripped off of something else. Is like a running joke.
There's a lot of references to musical theater in this movie. I don't know if it counts it as cultured, but
it's fantastic. Like in the comics, Deadpool will randomly break out into song. Well, because I assume Ryan Reynolds probably doesn't have that great of a singing voice, they will play a lot of interesting tracks at random moments. Like I'm thinking in particular when Juggernaut. Oh yeah, Juggernaut's in this movie. He smashes that truck.
Incidentally, that is one of the good things I liked about this film. First of all, they put Juggernaut in it, which is great. Juggernaut is one of the few X-Men or X-Men related characters I actually like. And second, this is the first time we've seen Juggernaut on the big screen, and it wasn't retarded. Like, it's a
It
CG...
wasn't just him going, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch, and then he just runs through some walls.
I mean, it's like you have an actual
Only for Ellen
Juggernaut.
Page to beat him.
It was beautiful. It was hilarious. And there was a fight between him and Colossus that it's everything I've ever wanted in a movie. I loved it. Not even gonna lie. Get in the Juggernaut. Beat someone in the head.
I'm trying to remember the artist of that song when the truck is like flying off the bridge that Juggernaut just punched in half. I think it was that artist Nina who just does that like...
Oh, Enya.
Enya,
It was,
Enya. That's what it was.
It was Orinoco Flow. Whatever the big song she had back in the 90s. But
Oh, it was fantastic. It was amazing.
What?
There's a lot of little moments like that just make it.
non sequiturs, awkward juxtapositioning. It's Ryan Reynolds does really good by this character.
There's a point where Cable and Deadpool are fighting. Deadpool asks if dubstep is a thing in the future. And then dubstep starts playing. After Cable says, dubstep is for pussies.
And he's not wrong. Not wrong.
Having read Cable and Deadpool, the whole messy relationship between those two characters, I felt was done pretty well in this movie. They have a really bizarre love-hate relationship where they will...
Cable's another character where it's weird to imagine how they would do him well, and they do him fantastically. Josh Brolin is not a physically imposing dude in person, and Cable was meant to be like 6'6" or something. So they do point that out, and it's funny, but he does a really good job.
The story is, like I said, it's kind of dark. It has this sort of effed up feel that's prominent in Deadpool stories. So when we said that he's going through a crisis, Vanessa dies in the first act, making Wade suicidal, which is periods that he goes through.
And it also makes for some of the most hilarious credit titles I've seen since Monty Python.
Oh, yeah, they do the whole, like, 007 routine, but just instead of, like, scantily clad women, it's all Deadpool.
The other thing that I thought was really good was how they handled X-Force. Mainly by brutally killing off over half of the team, like, right off the bat. Which, frankly, I enjoy because I've always hated X-Force. And watching, like, Shatterstar get ripped up by a helicopter, I'm just like, yes, more of this. And so they basically got rid of the most stupid characters.
They pumped them up. It was a great scene. Like, they pumped them up. They all start jumping out of the plane. You're like, man, this is so goofy. And then...
they just die.
They all start dying
horribly.
one by one.
And it's fantastic.
The guy who plays Pennywise the clown, what's his name? He's got a weird face.
Zeitgeist.
Yeah, but the character he plays is Zeitgeist.
Yeah, it's
he pukes acidic vomit. That's his shtick. And so he dies by like flying into a wood chipper. And then when Fred, the random guy that they hired,
was it Fred or Peter?
Peter? I don't remember because they
there's
kept
like
switching the name.
There's like the generic dad who shows up to their recruit for the X-Force, who's just like a tucked in polo shirt and mustache, has no idea why he's there, and is just like hanging out.
Oh, it's great.
But that was the other really great thing about this film is and that's just me personally. I don't like X-Force, and I'm glad to see that Ryan Reynolds doesn't either.
Well, we're still getting an X-Force movie, just
hopefully with better characters.
So far, the characters that were set up, I am A-okay with.
Honestly, I'm now open to
like
enjoying Domino.
Domino she did like jump out of there and survive. Her and Deadpool were the only ones that survived.
Because she's lucky.
Because she's lucky. And man, was it fun to watch. Like the whole time he's just yelling about, what, you shoot luck lasers out of your eyes? Meanwhile, she's just running down the street, like all this chaos around her and nothing's touching her.
So you have any more good stuff about this film, or are we ready to discuss some of the things that were maybe not so good?
I love this movie. It was great. But I'm ready to nitpick.
Second biggest nitpick is, like, the plot of the film is that there's this, like, angry fat kid who can shoot fire, and they're trying to keep him from shooting fire at the people who hurt him at the, like, mutant orphanage. And the plot is that in the future he grows up to be a murderer and kills Cable's family. So Cable has traveled back in time to kill this kid. Basically, it's Looper and Terminator had a dumpster baby. And I hate this kid. He's not a great actor, and he doesn't deliver the lines well. I feel like you could have gotten another fat kid to do the job so much better.
For how endearing they made Deadpool, I can kind of agree with that. You didn't really...
It didn't break the movie, not by a long shot, but it's like you're meant to care about this kid, and you just don't. You don't. If they had just cut his head off, I probably wouldn't have even flinched. He's just annoying. Like I said, you could have had any fat kid do their job.
I don't know if he was that bad for me, but he definitely could have been a lot better.
The only...
Agree with that. They probably could have done more to make everybody sort of care about him when, everything was going down. And part of that was because they wanted to rope so many jokes in through it that he didn't feel quite as innocent either.
Yeah, it just felt very forced.
Like they kept saying, "Oh, he's just a kid," but
you're just like, this kid's a jerk.
Yeah.
It's like oh, they have like these brief moments where he's trying to be friendly, and then just like 5 seconds later, he's 10,000% jerk facing at him. It's like, you know what? Just push him out the truck.
They try to make you kind of like feel bad for him. I'm not sure in that prison where he's talking about like, oh, nobody wants a plus size superhero.
But again, like you could have had another fat kid do the role, and it would have been better.
Yes.
Which kind of leads me to the next thing. The next issue I have with this film is it has a villain problem. And I feel like that's worth pointing out, is you have no idea who the villain is meant to be. Like, at first, it's, like, kind of meant to be Cable, and it turns out he's the good guy. It's like, oh, is it this kid because he winds up being a villain? Nah, he's just misunderstood. Oh, it's actually, like, the director of the mutant orphanage who's, like, this creepy old guy who tortures children, but they only mention it, like, once, and they just spend the rest of the movie just talking about how evil he is, but you don't really care because you never see him, and you shoot a whole bunch of orderlies for no reason, and just, like, I needed some kind of villain. At least in Deadpool 1, like, you knew who the bad guy was, and you knew why he was bad. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't break the film.
And I was thinking about this.
There's just no clear bad guy.
And I wasn't sure if that was really a huge problem in this movie, where like the villain seems to kind of jump from person to person, where it starts as Cable and then it jumps to Juggernaut.
Yeah, just there isn't one. Like at the end of the film, like, oh, we need a villain. Oh, let's kill this creepy old pedophile dude. But don't get me wrong, I totally support that. But
judging by the conflict in the movie, it felt as though maybe there didn't need to be a villain. Like, it was just...
Yeah, and then again, it doesn't...
So many characters that are all so messed up that just their conflict amongst themselves makes the movie.
It doesn't break the film, but it is... to me, it was a problem area, personally.
That's fair. I had a problem with the way Colossus turned out at the end of the movie, only because... I felt like it would have been more interesting if they had just kept his dynamic where he kind of sticks to what he thinks are of his morals, instead of kind of falling in line with what Deadpool thinks is right.
I didn't mind that as much because I'm thinking, like, you know what, you push anybody too far, eventually you're going to get cheesed off and kind of like flip out a bit, which he does.
he was, and it was fun. There were some lines he delivered that just didn't quite work. Like, he starts making jokes about like Mother Russia, and I don't know. It seemed a little forced towards the end for me.
There was some humor in general that did fall a little flat, but part of that is when you have such a high volume, you're bound to have jokes and gags that don't land square. That's why you have a high volume. So I don't mind that as much.
That's true. I assume going forward, They've pretty much established Colossus now as part of this X-Force team going forward. It's him, Deadpool, obviously, Cable, Domino, and now the fat kid that they rescued, and and Dopinder.
What?
The cab driver.
Oh yes. The cab driver's back, by the way,
and he's funny. He's great. He serves the role wonderfully.
My body is an instrument of lethal destruction.
For Colossus, I feel like to make that character change, it felt like he needed to have a little more depth than to just...
Yeah, it was a little awkward, but I didn't mind it, but that's mostly just because I like Colossus. That's about it.
He was fun. I don't know. It seemed as though towards the end of the movie, everything became so Deadpool-centric that all the characters started acting more like him in a way.
I mean, it is Deadpool 2.
It is Deadpool 2. You're right. It is the Deadpool movie.
It's his movie, Dan. He can do what he wants.
And this is kind of where I'm hoping X-Force going forward kind of has a slightly different identity. They let Deadpool be Deadpool, but they let all their other characters
I
be
wouldn't.
their
I
own.
wouldn't put too much money on that.
No?
No, I wouldn't. Is there anything else bad before we get into the ugly stuff?
Sure it will be. No, I mean, you pretty much covered it. Like, the first movie, it told you it was a love story out the get-go, and that was believable. Deadpool 2's story as a family movie, as
But it's that garbage Hollywood concept. Oh, my friends are my fan. I've already seen Spy Kids 3D. I don't need to see it again.
Yeah, maybe I just don't have a dysfunctional family, so I have a hard time relating, but it felt forced. Like, the whole time he was like, family's an F word, blah, 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 and it didn't.
I don't know, man. I just think it's like all those people like, oh, my crew is my family. Like, those people that like share those posts on Facebook are usually the trashiest people I know, so I just don't buy it.
But in all fairness, Deadpool is the trashiest superhero.
It true.
And for some reason, we love him for it.
Incidentally, he is one of the ugliest things in this movie. I believe avocados and shaved testicles were mentioned.
Let's get into the ugly then.
Honestly, the only real ugly complaint I have is that scene where he's regrowing his legs. You just get like little tiny naked Deadpool butt. Like an extended, long, loving shot of it. And they know it. It's done on purpose. It's played up. Look at them buns.
There are so many moments in this that are cringy, not in a bad way
Exquisite
necessarily.
cringe.
There's things that are just disturbing. I'm thinking of when Juggernaut, for the first time, the first thing he says is, I'm going to rip you in half now. And then he proceeds to rip Deadpool in half, which is kind of gross to look at. And then
Deadpool has to regrow his legs.
And then the next few things that Juggernaut says are like, I'm going to shove that guy up that guy's ass. Then he says to Colossus at one point, I'm going to melt you down and use you as a cock ring.
Language, sir.
And I was like, this is...
I mean, it's Juggernaut.
This feels excessively... I don't know.
None of these threats were carried out, by the way.
No, they weren't.
Well, except for ripping Deadpool in half. That did happen.
The fact that he carried that one out made the rest of it a little slightly more disturbing.
Are you telling me you watched the second half of that movie seriously concerned that it was going to be like a Colossus BDSM show?
No, I wasn't. I'm just saying the fact that...
Because now I'm concerned about you.
I'm just saying they did a pretty
I
good
changed my
job.
mind. The ugliest thing about this Deadpool movie is Dan's imagination. Dan, you need Jesus.
I'm only imagining it now because you told me to
I can
imagine
recommend
it.
some fantastic churches.
This brings me to my ugly. Deadpool's just not a pretty movie.
No.
Throwing that out there. Like, if you were expecting it to be... No. Like,
I mean,
it's hard for me to point out something that is
They
ugly.
draw attention to the fact that it's a CGI crap show, but it's on purpose. I don't even care.
Not even that. Like, just, the reglowing of the legs, the excessive gore,
No, you know what was ugly about this movie? T.J. Miller. I hate that guy. Why is he in movies? Get him out of there. Find someone else to play
in the
Weasel.
movies anymore.
Yeah, that's true. I guess he's like, what? He was arrested for a bomb threat?
Wish granted. He wasn't bad as Weasel. I thought
I just don't like him.
as Weasel it worked fine. It fits him well, and now he can be done. Now he can go to jail.
Maybe they'll kill him in the next one. I live in hope.
Kill him off screen. Anyways,
Hey, Deadpool 2. The upshot is, again, unless you have something else ugly about it.
No.
The upshot is, if you like the first one, you'll like the second one. If you didn't like the first one, you won't like the second one. It is what Deadpool is. If you like the comic books, it's a little bit raunchier, a little bit bloodier, but it is true to the spirit of Deadpool.
It is.
It's a good film if you know what you're getting into. It's a comedy, it's subjective, but it's a fun movie. I mean, to get a little pretentious here, I think Deadpool serves as a good safety valve because we just have a comic book movie overload. They all take themselves so seriously. And it's nice to have Deadpool come along and be like, hey, these guys are pretty retarded. You know that, right? Okay, we do? All right, just making sure. And again, it is very subjective, but it's like if you don't like the material, the genre, you're not going to like the film. I feel like that's worth pointing out.
Right.
It's not for everybody.
What supposedly is for everybody.
All right, if there's one thing we know about Deadpool, it's he's a dirty liar. So I know that for the last episode we told you that we were going to do Solo next. We lied. We wanted to do Deadpool because we liked it. We will be doing Solo next.
It is a huge movie, though.
It is.
Put it out.
It
Deadpool
knocked
2.
Avengers off of its... The real question will be if Solo can claim number one on its opening weekend. And I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't. Like, normally I would say I hope that every movie is good, but in this case, I feel like it's been so mismanaged, it deserves to suffer. But we're going to watch it. We're going to watch it so you don't have to.
I saw an interview with Ron Howard, and it sounded like he wasn't taking his job very seriously. He's just kind of goofing off as they were talking to him.
Ronnie's a good director, but he is there for the money. I don't blame him. And I'm eager to see what he pieced together from that just circus. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Dead Man Walking.
I don't want to see Solo.
Yes, you do. Watch it.
I know what you are! They kicked me out of the flight academy because I dared to think my own thoughts, Mom.